Hi, this is Swapnil Bhartiya, and welcome to the second episode of Open for Business. You have a great idea for a product or service that you want to build leveraging open source technologies. You can see a huge user base, you can see a huge community, you can see a huge ecosystem around your product and services. Everything is great, it's exciting. You want to start a new business. But one of the first challenges any new business face is securing funds to launch their product and services. And launch alone is not the final destination. You need to ensure that your business is sustainable. Blair, you have been consulting companies for a very long time. No one knows better than you that starting a new business can be a daunting process. Securing funds can be a challenge. It can also delay the project. Can you tell me how to kickstart a project?
There are a number of things you can do to make launching your open source project and or company more successful and really take the complexities out of raising any capital much easier. Number one, I would say, do you have a business plan? I know they're hard to put together. I've written several across my startup companies, but they really should be. I mean, forcing you to think through all of those aspects of your idea is a critical exercise. Market research, competitive analysis, sales and marketing strategy, how you'll make money, all those key milestones along the way are all important things to think through. So take your time, download a business plan template off the internet, there's lots of good ones, and get started. Number two, I would say, have you built a prototype or MVP, minimally viable product? Yes, companies have raised lots of money and been really successful with just an idea written on a napkin. But I mean, come on, that's really rare. Being able to show investors what your idea is and how it could make starting your business easier and help you get a faster response from investors is what it's all about. Let's see, number three, I would say, have you tested your idea with real users? I spent a bunch of years working with a number of top design consulting firms, and I learned that true innovation comes from understanding the humans between our technology process and data. So that behavioral research, the user testing, can really make a huge difference between success or failure of your project. Number four, have you earned any revenue yet? Of course, investors love to see that you can actually make money with your idea. I mean, revenue is great, but also don't get too excited if it's revenue that doesn't really align with the business plan and the strategic direction. So revenue success can be a false flag sometimes if you don't have proper market fit. So just watch out for that. Number five, I would say, are you building on an existing category or are you creating a totally new category? If the latter, you should read this book, called Play It Bigger, co-written by a friend of mine, Dave Peterson, which is all about becoming what they call a category king, which is kind of like the way that Salesforce.com did with their, if you remember, the no software approach advertising campaigns that they had. And they created a totally new category of enterprise software in the cloud, which we all know now as SaaS, or software as a service. And finally, I would say, probably the most importantly, is what is the market opportunity and timing for your idea? Because you really need to know how long is that window of opportunity open for you to fit your idea into the market before other competitors jump in the idea, other startups, or one of the big guys jumps in and grabs the opportunity. So really understanding how long that window of opportunity is going to be open, what the gap is in the market, will really dictate how fast you need to move, how much money you need to raise, how much investment you need to make in marketing and sales to be able to capture market share. So really understanding what that timing is probably one of the most important things you can do for your open source project.
So now let's assume that you have ticks against all these six boxes on your checklist. What about funding? What are the sources of funding available to most of us?
The best one, if you can do it, is bootstrapping. Bootstrapping is where you're putting the money in yourself. So it could be from your savings, could be credit cards. You got to be careful with that. And it could be like a home equity loan if you own a house. This is the way that, here at Linode, Chris Aker, our founder and CEO, started the company. He did it totally bootstrapped, and it gives you lots of flexibility if you can pull it off. He still remains as 100% owner of the company, can dictate things like what's the best for our customers, best for our employees, all of that kind of stuff you have control over. So if you can bootstrap it, awesome, but it can be much more difficult if you need to move quickly. I would say, secondly, of course, is like friends and family. So this is how I started my company. I went to friends and family, and they were able to lean in and help me get my business started. But you really need to make sure that they understand that this is a risky thing, that money may not come back. So they're investing in you after all. So they got to understand that, it's something that is a risky venture, and hopefully it'll work out, but it might not. So you don't want to ruin your relationships just over a business idea. And there's lots of easy ways to set it up too. You can go online and find there's simple grant sort of document and paperwork that can make it really easy so that they feel comfortable giving you money, and that if there is success with the business, that they'll get a good return. Let's see. Oh, the next one, of course, is crowdfunding. Man, I wish I had this in my company, my first company. But it's kind of like friends and family, but really taking it to the next level. And there's so many good ones out there now. There's like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, GoFundMe. WeFunder is another cool option. These are great solutions, but they tend to work better for consumer-based ideas, ones where a larger number of people can kind of grasp the idea. And they also tend to work better if you can show them something, show them a prototype, show them some sort of an initial product or service idea that they can really see and grasp the idea around. Then it's easier for them to feel they understand it and invest in it. If it's like a narrow edge case sort of B2B, like IT or a development app or something like that, it might be more difficult for people to understand what it is and why they should invest in it. Of course, the next one would be angel investors. So I work with a number of angel investors. I worked with one down in Florida for 10 years as their entrepreneur in residence. And these are typically groups that either invest in a particular region or they invest in a particular category or industry. Sometimes they're a group of individual investors that are pooled together. Sometimes they are city or state governments that also invest. So they tend to invest anywhere from $50,000 to a couple $100,000. And what's kind of nice about some of these angel investors is, yes, they take an equity stake. Yes, they're there in the beginning, but they also tend to have a lot of experience helping early stage companies. And they also sometimes have kind of programs where you pay them back over time and eventually kind of move them off of your cap table and and recover some of that equity. So it's a nice way to get started, but not making you married to them forever, if you know what I mean. And then the next one, of course, is venture capital. So these range all over the place. So there's venture capitalists that are purely just money. They're good at giving you money and that's it. And then there's ones that will give you a whole host of services. Everything from access to advisors, access to all kinds of relationships. They even have like recruiting arms to their companies to help you grow and hire employees. So there's a lot of different ways you can go. I worked with a firm, OpenView Ventures, up in Boston that had all these advisors that would help individual department heads. So not only the founder and CEO, but also the head of marketing and the CFO and the head of sales. So they were really helpful for that. And then there's other ones that specialize in certain kind of stages of your growth. So it could be a Series A or B or C. So they might have thresholds, like we only invest from $1 million to $2 million, or you have to at least be a 10 million and up, or 50 million and up. One of the great early stage companies is First Round Capital here in Philadelphia. And what's really cool about them is they connect you with this whole community of other peers, of other startup leaders. so that you can be able to access kind of like what they've learned and what kind of like the lessons learned of what worked for them and what didn't work for them. And then finally, I guess bank loans, you can always do. Just be careful with the bank loans, because you really want to be able to see what your kind of path to repayment is. And you're also going to have to capitalize that loan with your house or with something else. So just be careful with that. I like bank loans if you really kind of can understand what and feel confident what the path to repayment is. And there's also some other bank loans that can be pretty helpful in terms of ones that can help you with factoring receivables, so that maybe you get paid in big chunks from customers, but sometimes it takes a while because they're a big enterprise that is your customer, and they take 90 days or 120 days to pay you. So being able to factor those receivables with a bank can help you kind of smooth out that cash flow. So there are lots of different kinds you can look at, but you just kind of have to make sure you pick the right one for you. And then outside of just the regular investors, there's lots of resources you can get for free or much less by qualifying as a startup. For instance, there are infrastructure credits that you can get just like for cloud and things like that. Just be careful because many of these, especially from the big guys, are designed to completely lock you in, and there will be a big financial impact down the road. Like at Linode, we kind of keep it simple, make it very transparent what you're going to pay, what's going to happen when your credits run out. So you just got to really watch out with some of these kind of startup credit programs, because some of them are really designed for lock-in rather than really helping you grow your business.
So if you look at it, every source of funding for you has some strings attached. Like if you talk about friends and family, you actually say, hey, you may just lose money, and that's all it is. But irrespective of what is the source of your funding, it's much more important to start a business and make sure that it is sustainable business, so that it will be there 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now. So can you share some of the tips or some of the secrets of ensuring that your business is sustainable?
Yes. So number one is build a financial model. So essentially, it's just a fancy spreadsheet that will allow you to test assumptions, time frames, your average cost per sale, all these little attributes of your business. And there's lots of really good templates out there, or you can just build your own. But the key is running through a number of scenarios. Like what if the market expects a freemium version in the beginning? Or what if market adoption is slower? What if marketing costs are higher than expected? What if the pandemic surges back or there's an economic recession? So being able to understand what those variables are and be able to model them under different scenarios is really, really important. And then you can use that model, of course, ongoing. As things actually happen, you're kind of prepared for them. You know what the cascading effects will be on different parts of your business if different attributes change. So that's like one of the most important ones. I would say number two is engage every day with your users. So here at Linode, Chris Aker, our founder, he handled support calls for years in the early days. And today still takes his turn every week responding to customer questions. So the closer you are to your customers' needs and their perception of your product, the better you will be to make the necessary adjustments to satisfy customers and grow your business along the way. So it's really, really critical that you understand and stay close to your customers. Don't necessarily do everything that they ask, because you want to lead them also in the direction you want to go, not always just satisfy their immediate concern of that day. But if you can have that empathy, if you can have that connection, if you can stay close to your customers, then together you'll be able to have a great mutual partnership and a successful business. And then I would say, just one more. I would say also just engage with your peers and advisors. The challenge to any startup growing business isn't necessarily knowing what to do, as there are endless number of best practices out there and books and shows you can go to and other kinds of things. So often it's not necessarily knowing what to do, it's knowing what to do when and how much. So after all, we don't have unlimited time and resources, and we want to make the best decisions we can at the right time. So connecting with other entrepreneurs who have been there, done that, can really help you prioritize, challenge assumptions, make you more confident that you are on the right path. So don't think you know everything, because you don't. Really try and connect with people who've kind of have had those experiences, have learned along the way, and can help guide you in terms of what's the right thing for you to do at that particular time and help you with your prioritization.
You said what is the right thing to do, but the problem is, no matter what kind of business you are in, no matter how much experience you have, you are going to make mistakes, and making mistakes is good, as long as you don't repeat them, because you learn from those mistakes, and that's to further improve your products or service. So mistakes are going to be there, but some mistakes can become fatal, and there are some risks that you will have to take, for your business to grow, depending on the situation that you are in. But how to lower the risk while increasing the potential for growth? Can you talk about this aspect?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess looking back on my businesses, as well as kind of the conversations that I have with other serial entrepreneurs, is that we often regret a lot of the decisions we made around choosing our partners. Sometimes we chose the wrong partners, or ones that didn't necessarily align with our vision, or we were too quick to take the money because we felt like we needed to move quickly, because we were worried about that window of opportunity, or our personal money was running out. And we didn't negotiate, I think, as well as we should have. So really be a tough negotiator. Don't be too quick to say yes to the money. So they'll often say, oh, it's just 5% or it's just 10%. It may not seem like a lot now, but it can be a game changer later. So you got to remember, you're going to be in a long-term relationship, and there are going to be probably other investors and other things that you're going to need to do along the way. So the decisions you make early on, especially in the first rounds, those initial seed investors, are super important. I would also say, kind of companion to that, is make sure you choose those investors carefully, because, like I said, this is a long-term relationship, and you want to make sure that they will really work well with you when times are good, and then when times are bad, and not just kind of take advantage of the situation. So you want them to really understand what your vision is. You want to be able to align with them personally, and you want to be able to know that they'll have your back when you really need them. And the other one is, if you're going to go with the friends and family route, like I did with my first company, make sure to set proper expectations, because you don't want to lose a friendship or a family member over a business. I mean, there's nothing more important in life than friends and family, and the business is really, down there in terms of priority. So make sure that you set expectations, that they know that they're getting into a risky venture, that they're investing in you, and you're going to do everything you can to be able to get them a return, but it's not guaranteed. And then finally, I would say, probably one of the most important things that we all need to do all the time is always be testing. Always be testing the product market fit, always be connecting with customers, making sure that they have opportunities to give you real-time feedback on your product, be able to do surveys, do contextual inquiries where you're witnessing them interacting with your product or service. Always be testing is so important. Often we kind of do it early on, and they're like, oh no, we got this. No. Some of the best insights, and like I said before, some of the best innovative products and services have come from user testing and research. So that's one of the most important things I would say to make sure you always do.
You mentioned something about always get feedback, talk to a customer. I remember Steve Jobs. He was always interacting with. Sometimes he was so passionate about his product that there will be an argument over email. He will write mails to journalists, to even users randomly. He will pick and reply to mails. But that also kind of makes you genuine and honest, and that's why even, no matter how you sound like rude or aggressive, but it does connect you with your user base. So Blair, thank you so much for sharing these I would call it a playbook to kickstart your business, how to secure funding, and how to also ensure that your business will still be there long after you are gone. So thank you once again, and I look forward to talk to you again next week.
Great. Thank you, Swap.